All right, what's up, Bulldogs? Let's get started with part two of the Ableton trap lesson. This lesson is going to be all about extending your loop, your beat, taking just the short 4 or 2 bar loop and creating a full structured song based around that. So you are going to need to create a little bit more music and use some of that musical part of your brain to achieve this, but you'll be more than ready to tackle this once I show you a few steps. So what we've got going on is extending these clips, making them longer, and then cutting them up into different sections so that you'll have an introduction, a verse, a chorus, and then you can repeat those sections over and over again for different effects. So we talked about song structure, so remember some of that stuff that that will apply to this. So what you're going to be doing is a lot of zooming in and zooming out. So look where I'm clicking to achieve that. You want to click up above these numbers that indicate the bar lines. So you can click there and drag up and down. Then there's a few things that I want you to be mindful of. This loop marker here will repeat the arrangement, repeat parts of the arrangement, so that when it gets to the end of that, your cursor will jump to the beginning of it. So I showed most of you this, but I'll just give you an example of how it works. So another thing to be mindful of is that it only works with this button turned on, this yellow button here that I'm clicking. So that's the loop switch. It'll turn the loop on and off. So now what I want to show you is how to extend clips. You merely click on the rightmost part of the colored part of the clip and you drag it out. So the top part with the color, you click that towards the right and you can drag it out. So I'm going to drag mine out so that the whole thing is 32 bars, and then what I'm going to do is start cutting it into sections. So the way you do that is you place, let's get this loop marker out of here for now, but the way that you cut sections up is you count how many bars you want to cut. So I want to make an 8-bar introduction. So what I'll do is cut the first 8 bars, and I use a shortcut called split. Right here, it'll be under Edit, Control E. So if I just select the range and hit Control E, it'll make a cut there. If I select a range and hit Control E, it'll make a cut right there. So why would you do a cut? Well, you know that these things are loops, that when you drag them out, they loop as far as you drag them. But what you'll need to do is extend or change the notes up once you've made a cut. So these notes are always editable, and if I make a change in one cut section, it won't apply to the next cut section. So I'll give you some examples. Maybe I want to do my intro with no hi-hats. I just delete the hi-hats there. Now the hi-hats are gone from that track. And let's say instead of going up like that, I just wanted to have a single note at the end. And I want to change that note to be different. Yeah, that sounds like a good introduction to this track. And so then when it reaches the end of those 8 bars, the beat kind of drops and it sounds a little bit more exciting. So that goes from intro to maybe a verse or a chorus, right? So we've got an intro. Now what we're going to do is we're going to split. So we've got an 8-bar intro. What I'd like to have now is a 16-bar verse and a 16-bar chorus. So the total length of this now is, because it was 32 and we took 8 away from it, it's 24. So we need to make it 32 again. So I'll add another 8 bars to all of my clips, and then I'll cut them in half with Control E. So let's select this, make sure it's 16 bars. You can tell it's 16 bars because it says so in the bottom, but the bottom of my screen is covered up, so I can't see. I think that's 16 bars now. Yeah, 16 bars on either side. So what I'm going to show you now is something called automation, right? So automation lets you do a lot of different things. You can do fade ins, you can do fade outs, you can do maybe some changing of effect parameters over time. So what I'm going to do is change the filter amount on my third synthesizer down here, my melody synth. So I'm going to basically do this. I'm going to solo it by hitting this S button on the track next to the volume. I'm going to solo it and I'm going to listen to what happens when I change the filter. So those changes are going to be what I apply to my automation in order to get variation between my intro, verse, and chorus. So let's listen to the intro and see what sounds best. Maybe something like that where it's very filtered. And then as I go into the verse, I can, add a little bit more like that. So before, this frequency right here was at 400, but I increased it to 900. So by the time I get to the next section, I think I'm going to increase it to about 2000 and have it sound like that to make it more exciting. So let's do that. Let's draw that automation in. I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to return this to its starting point because that's where we want it to be for the intro, okay? And all you need to do is be mindful of the fact that when I move this parameter up and down, there's a red line on the track that moves up and down with it. So I'm going to set it where I want it to go, and it'll be stuck there, and I'll put a point on this line just by clicking there. So this point basically controls it. So if I set another point and draw a line from one area to another, it's going to automate that parameter to go from there to there. So let's listen to how that sounds. It's very filtered at first. And then it becomes very bright. So I'm going to zoom in for this because it'll be helpful to have higher resolution. And I'm only going to bring it up to about 900 that first time. So it goes like this. Then when we move from the second section to the third section, we're going to go up another 1,000. So we're going to go up to 2,000 here. Alright, so each section has its own filter style. I could also change up the bass line between sections by making a cut right here and changing it up. What I'll do is I'll duplicate the loop and then add some variation. So we're going to say that's the chorus, right? And then if we want to go back to the verse, all we have to do is select the verse, and we should probably make a cut there too, but select the part that has the verse, and we can copy it with Control C, go to where we want it to go, and hit paste, and it'll be right back there. So it's going to switch from it's going to switch your music and your automation to whatever you want. So that's your mixing controls, which are volume and pan. Pan is left to right, and volume is louder or softer. So that control for volume is this orange number right here, and panning is this letter that says C right here. C stands for center. If you click and drag up, you're going to go to the right. If you click and drag down, you're going to go to the left. So click and drag up and down on these to change your volume and pan. And that's it for now. I'll see you next time.